be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother. And it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not, am I my brother's keeper? Let's stop at that point. We are talking about a problem of power struggle. And a lot of people are having that problem, and it is their undoing. You know, one of the matters in our particularly African society is that when things don't go well, we do not look back to see the cause of the thing not going well. And if we look at this and look at that in some cases, the moment we conclude, it is witches, it is evil spirits, it is the devil, we put pay to it. But there are so many things that happen the way they happen because of us. I'm not trying to say that there is no devil. There is a real personal devil that we need to face. But the matter is that if you're saying devil, devil, devil in everything, you will discover that you are actually playing into his hands, because that is what he wants. Now, when you talk about the problem of power struggle, it is man's greatest problem. It is a problem beneath every problem, whether it is a problem of interpersonal relationships, and more particularly when it talk about relationships, whether it is relationships amongst siblings, whether it is relationship just within the household, between a husband and a wife, whether it is relationship between neighbors, whether it is relationship in the office, in the marketplace, in the larger society, in government, among politicians and the elite, the peasants, the versatile, the illiterate, everywhere you go. The problem of relationship is linked to the problem of power struggles. And the matter is that life is about relationships, and relationships is about life. Whatever you do for relationship, you do in relationship, you do with relationship, you do by relationship. And so if the problem of power struggle is a problem of human relations, then it means that it is the most fundamental problem. And when you talk about power struggle, don't think about your neighbor, think about yourself first. And that's the reason why we're dealing with some of the subjects. Today, I'll be dealing with the matter of conquering rejection. Conquering rejection. One of the plans that the enemy succeeded in planting into man is the fear of rejection. Deep within human heart, there is a fear of rejection that boils, and sometimes without us even knowing, and it leads people to fits, to things that you never thought that they could have done. The fear of rejection. It is one of the worst problems of human life, because with every human being, there are needs. These are not needs that are created by environment. These are not needs that are created by other people. They are inborn needs. It's a natural need. It's a normal need. It is the need for acceptance. Number one, everybody desires to be accepted. Whether they are good or they are bad, the reason why people go to church is because they want to be accepted. They're trying to say, sometimes you do not even know that that's the real propelling power of your attending a church. And sometimes the reason why you see people moving from one church to the other is because of acceptance needs. Let me tell you a short story. There was this precious young man and his beautiful wife. They got married, and the wife had demands. And because he loved her, it's not that they were not having their basic needs met. They have a house in which they were living in. They had a little car that they drove. At least they were average. There was money coming in. They were able to meet their needs and everything. But the wife had demands, because when she looked at herself and looked at her peers, she felt that, look, this is who I am. She was a beautiful woman. You talk about beauty, she was really beautiful. And as a result of that, there were pressures that were coming to the young man. And as the days were going, although they had just a child, as the days were going, things were getting better. Money was coming in. They were able to meet their every need, but they were not satisfied. The woman needed a better car. She needed a better house. She needed a better environment to live in. And as a result of that, the man began to go forward, and his business was growing. His business was blossoming. And when they got to a point, in fact, people began to see them as elites in the society. They began to see them as well-to-do people in the society. So their level changed. And they began to mix with the cream of the society. You know, there's a level you come to, you begin to mix with certain levels of people. The moment you begin to meet with them, you are now faced with the challenge of keeping your standard. And so they eventually had to move out of the environment that they were before to another environment. And every environment they went to, they were accepted by people, and they desired that acceptance should continue. And all their friends were building houses in Lekki, so they also decided to build a house in Lekki. And in the process of trying to build the house, it's discovered that if he were to invest all the money that he had into the house, it was going to consume his business. So he had to take a loan, and his business was promising. So the company gave him a loan of at least up to 2 billion. In fact, there was prospect that he was going to pay. But as he began to build, eventually money was going in. The money that he had borrowed had gone in. It wasn't just into the business, but it had gone into the building. So he completed the house, and they moved into the house. Now, the challenge was how to maintain the house and how to keep the standard. And so the pressure began to mount on the man, and these things began to affect his business. And eventually, things were not going as he planned. And so the thing began to dwindle. And the only alternative was for him to sell the house and pay off the loan and save his business, so that the business would not collapse. But unfortunately, that was going to affect his self-esteem. They want people to accept them. Now, to cut a long story short, eventually it affected the business, and the business crumbled. And this developed to high blood pressure for the young man. Now, he loved the wife so much that he couldn't tell her that he had high blood pressure. And as a result of that, the man got to a point in which he knew. Doctors told him that, in fact, he had a heart attack. He didn't let the wife know, because he didn't want her to be bothered. He had a slight heart attack. They rushed him to the hospital. When the wife asked what was wrong, he told the doctors to tell her that no, he just a little stressed, and he had to take a rest. And so he stayed in the hospital. But good enough, nothing happened to him. And the doctors told him that the next time you have a heart attack, you will not survive it. But look at the state of the heart. Not knowing that the process of getting to that level, it has affected his heart. And eventually, the man wrote a letter to the wife and gave the wife this secret. The secret was that, number one, that the house that they built was not built with his own money, it was built on loan. And that the company is going into bankruptcy. And as a result, in fact, his personal account is almost zero. And that anything could happen. And that if anything happens, the only thing that she has is just a child and probably her clothes. That nothing in that house belonged to them. And he dropped that letter. And he wrote that letter and kept it, as if he had a premonition of his death. And shortly after that, he died. And the wife cried. She had missed a loved one. But one of the problems that she discovered when she discovered that letter was that she didn't have anything, no money in the bank. The company, as a matter of fact, has gotten to a state in which he had sold the company. Their house, the creditors were going to collect the house back. You know, the banks are not going to negotiate that. They are going to take the house back and sell it and recover their money. And so the woman had lost everything. The man also lost everything. Why did he lose everything? Because he wanted to be accepted. They wanted to be accepted. And this is the problem. Now, the fear of rejection leads people to fix. We read about Cain. Why did Cain kill Abel? There was something in Cain that was crying for acceptance. And God knew it. And said, if thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? So, but if you do not do well, sin lies at the door. Today we hear of a lot of evil things in the society. Husbands killing wives, wives killing husbands. People kidnapping others just to make money. People using their parents for money rituals, using their loved ones. Girlfriends are, in fact, they are at the receiving end. What are the causes of all this? It's because of acceptance. People want to satisfy acceptance needs. Acceptance is first a feeling, but there are also facts. Because we as humans, we need to feel accepted. If you don't feel your husband accepts you or your wife accepts you, you'll be miserable. As a matter of fact, you can be living with that person as two strangers, even though you are husbands and wives. And you can even have children as husbands and wives, but you'll be living as strangers. And you'll be living a very miserable life. If you are in an environment people don't accept you, as a matter of fact, one of the things that may kill you in that environment is the fear of rejection. Because you know that people do not accept you. So you want to be accepted. The reason why we dress is because we want to be accepted. I mean, don't lie to yourself. You dress because you want to be accepted. You dress the way you accept because you want to be accepted. I mean, the way you dress because you want people to accept you. And the moment people don't accept your dressing, you naturally begin to think, why am I dressing this way? Why is it that we're not dressing with fig leaves again? Why are we not dressing with animal skins again? Why are we not dressing half naked again? You know, our African culture, sometimes people talk about nakedness. Our African cultural dressing is nakedness. The same people that talk about nakedness talk about dressing like Africans. Africans don't dress clothed, all parts. Africans dress almost nude. The only places that they dress, they cover are sensitive parts. The point I'm trying to make is that the reason why we dress the way we dress is because we want to be accepted, acceptable to people that know us, acceptable in the community, acceptable in the larger society. That is the reason why we dress the way we dress. People go to school today not necessarily because they want to acquire knowledge, but because they want to be accepted. They want to be considered graduates. People study certain courses in the university because they want to be accepted. Not many people have a purpose or study because of purpose. People get married to certain people because of acceptance. As a matter of fact, some people are even married because they want to be accepted. Oh, am I the only one that's not going to be married? Everybody is getting married. So, acceptance needs are natural. First, there are feelings. Sometimes people are misled to think that they're not accepted because they're not doing certain things or because they're doing certain things. Those are feelings. It's figments. It's just imaginary. And the moment you imagine that somebody did not accept you, like Cain. Cain was not a cattle rearer. Cain only had yams, crops to offer. And God would have accepted it if he had a good heart. But he had a heart that is not towards God. His heart was full of the fear of rejection. He had bitterness and resentment within him. That's why God asked him, why are you wroth? Why is your countenance fallen? That means that he became envious. And as a result, he became spiteful. He began to suspect Abel, that Abel was trying to take what was rightfully his own. He felt rejected. Even before God put the judgment upon him, or before he killed his brother, he had this problem of fear, of rejection within him. Why do you fight with your husband? Or why does a husband and a wife fight? Why do they have quarrel? Why do they have problems? The moment they are able to conquer the fear of rejection, the problem ceases. When you say something and your wife objects, how do you feel? A feeling of rejection comes in. When you say something and your husband objects to it, how do you feel? A fear of rejection comes in. Because we want them to accept us. You want to be accepted, I want to be accepted, everybody wants to be accepted. There are feelings, there are also facts of rejection. People can actually be rejected. Have you ever approached somebody and instead of the person talking to you properly, the person looks at you, spies you, and walks away? It is normal. And the next time you meet somebody, the thing that plays first in your mind is he going to treat me like she treated me? Like he treated me? You see, that's a real fact. For instance, if you're not dressed properly and you are moving into a particular environment where people are dressed properly, nobody may even talk to you, but naturally you look at yourself strange, a feeling comes in. And sometimes, because of that, as you get close to people begin to wonder, why is it dressed this way? That's why I said there are feelings and there are facts, which we don't have to undermine. But you need to be able to conquer the fear of rejection. And if you conquer the fear of rejection, there are some things that you will not be able to do wrongly. As a matter of fact, you'll be able to do them properly because you do them with understanding. So number one thing, you need to see, seeking acceptance you need to conquer the problem of seeking acceptance at the expense of others. Now, that's one of the biggest problems. Cain was seeking acceptance at the expense of Abel. He felt that if Abel is wiped away, God does not have an alternative than to accept me. But in doing that, he has created more problems for himself. That's the reason why you see that there are sometimes envious killings. That's the reason why you see people in the office that want to ask somebody because they feel that if he is not there, I will take his place. That's the reason why you see that sometimes you see women poisoning other women because they feel that if she is not there, that man will look at me. That's why you see that there's a lot of witchcraft problems. So you don't have to seek for acceptance at the expense of others. The moment you actually have decided that I will seek for acceptance at the expense of others, you have taken the first step to conquering the fear of rejection. And the second thing is that you don't have to seek for acceptance at the expense of your life or your destiny. Of course, a lot of people do that. They seek for acceptance at the expense of their future. They're thinking of themselves, if I do it this way, people will accept me. They don't ask themselves, suppose I do it this way and it is harmful to me. Suppose it affects my career, it affects my future, it affects my relationship. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about what people will say to them. Why do people smoke? Studies show that many people above the age of 40 that smoked, up to 75 to 85% of them started smoking as a result of friends. It's very, more than 75 to 85, they started smoking as a result of friends. They wanted to be accepted. They didn't want their friends to look at them as people that are not in the flow. So they started smoking. And as a result of friends, many of them will not live their full age. Because smoking is said to reduce 15% of your age, at least. So it means that because of friends, many of them are not going to live their full age. That is where the problem is. That is a problem of the fear of rejection. You need to counter it. The moment you stop seeking for acceptance at the expense of others. Sometimes people have to spoil other people for other people because they want to be accepted by those people. And you forget that as you spoil this person for that person to accept you, the law is that somebody else is going to spoil you. All that you wish that men should do to you, so likewise do unto others. What you do to others will be done to you. Woe unto you that spoil and has not been spoiled. That's what the Bible tells us. And if you stop doing things to be accepted at the expense of your own life, your career, your destiny, then automatically you are putting the fear of rejection underfoot. For acceptance, it is natural. It is normal. There is nothing you'll do about it. It is always going to be there. It is going to be things that affect you psychologically. It's going to be things that affect your mental life. I mean, you think it. You want to be accepted, so you think it. You feel it. Your emotions are tied to it. Naturally, it will be there. There's nothing you can do about it because you were created with it. That's the reason why there are some things you can do. For instance, as a baby, you can, at a particular age, you can bathe outside, naked. But once you get to a particular age, you can't bathe outside again because, I mean, that's an insult to your personality. That's the reason why you can't do that. You can't be naked outside. Now, that's to say that it is natural. It is intuitive. Now, you won't want to be suppose you are naked outside and people see your nakedness. They don't take anything from you. They don't touch you. They don't do anything to you. But why? Because it abuses your self-acceptance. Your self-respect is taken away. So acceptance is that I want to be respected for who I am. I want to be accepted and treated well for who I am. Even if I'm wearing rags, I want to be treated for who I am. I want to be accepted that way. And Ephesians chapter 1 verse 6 is the key. The Bible says that God has made us accepted in the beloved. In other words, your acceptance is in Christ. He said, he that comes to me, I shall in no wise cast out. And if God has accepted you, then it means that what you need to do is to live a responsible life.